President Trump's senior advisor and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has reportedly been trying to revive discussions to overhaul the U.S. immigration system. NPR reports Kushner has been, quote, meeting with business leaders, immigration hardliners, and other interest groups important to Republicans with the goal of rolling out a new immigration plan once Trump's impeachment trial ended. Franco Ordoñez first reported on this story. He's a White House correspondent for NPR. Franco, welcome. So the impeachment trial is obviously over now. Is this the only reason this is coming up again?
Well, I mean, it's one of the reasons why they were able to kind of do it under the radar. Jared Kushner, as you noted, was meeting with business groups, kind of right-wing groups, all these different groups that are important to the Republican Party. The goal was to kind of try to find a plan, a set of principles that Republicans could kind of rally behind. The ultimate goal is some kind of legislation that could be introduced, but they have already found that how big of a challenge that is. The second choice was maybe some type of principles that they could roll out similar to last year. But they're facing a lot of pushback already, even within the Republican Party.
Right. I was going to say there's a tension that exists within the GOP that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of. You've got the big business interest groups versus the immigration hardliners. You know, big business wants more and cheaper labor to be available, and the immigration hardliners want to close that border and make it harder and harder, for immigrants to come across to work. So is there a way of reconciling those two groups within the GOP?
So far, they haven't been able to find it. I mean, they have gotten, certainly Jared Kushner has gotten some of those groups on board, certainly selling the idea that this plan would be better than any type of plan that Democrats would introduce. But there is still, as you note, very massive divisions. I spoke with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They have concerns that whatever is done, there won't be enough worker visas, enough legal immigration to supply the manufacturing and tech businesses that they need. And the groups on the right are very concerned about that. They do not want an increase in legal workers because they feel that that will only drop down wages and create more competition for U.S. workers. It's a big challenge that they face, and it's one that's likely to continue to be a problem for them.
And that's, of course, before the plan is even put in front of any Democrats who want to know about the Dreamers. So what does this plan look like as it currently stands?
Well, as it currently stands, it adopts a merit-based program, which would be based more on worker skills and less on family connections. So if you're a spouse or a child of an American citizen or a green card holder, you will still get preferential treatment via family connections. But if you're an uncle or a more distant relative, you will not get the same type of preferential treatment that you do currently. Now, those people would be eligible for what they're calling now a Build America visa, and that is a visa that is for kind of exceptionally talented individuals, people who graduated from U.S. colleges and graduate institutions, people that are more based by more kind of people that they want to be here based on their skills. It also does a few other things that are a bit controversial. One is that it reorganizes the Department of Homeland Security. It would reorganize it so that the immigration groups or the immigration agencies, Border Patrol, USCIS, and ICE would all kind of fall under one director position, and that person would be an immigration czar, essentially. It kind of goes back to the old INS days. And also would have some border security and some sanctuary city issues, which are kind of carrots for kind of like those right-wing groups.
Right. Does it address at all the situation involving the millions of Dreamers, which is something that Democrats care a lot about?
Yeah, exactly. It does not. It absolutely does not address the Dreamers or the 11 million undocumented people who are here, which is why if this is introduced, rolled out, it will be almost immediately denounced by Democrats. And going into an election year, it really seems impossible for something like this to be successful. That said, that's not necessarily the administration, Kushner, or the Republicans' goal is to get this actually introduced. What they want is something that they can be able to tell the American people that, look, we are working on issues that are important to you, the American people. We are trying to get things done, and this is what we believe in. But it's not going to pass.
Such a thorny issue, and he has tried to tackle immigration before. Remind us why he failed last time.
Well, last year it failed very publicly. They introduced a very similar plan, and it failed for many of these same issues. The differences, the wide divide between the business community as well as the right-wing groups. But it was also during a very tumultuous time for this administration. Illegal immigration on the southern border was rising. If you remember, there was also quite a bit of strife at the Department of Homeland Security. The former deputy, or the Department of Homeland Security secretary at the time, Kirstjen Nielsen, she was pushed out. The USCIS director, Francis Cisna, he was pushed out. They pulled the nomination for ICE director of Ron Vitello. So there were a lot of concerns that not enough attention was being placed on the border. And President Trump simply said that we need to focus more on the border, and I need to get a tougher guard in place. And this kind of idea just faded away. And here Kushner's trying to bring it back.
But Franco, you report that the president has shifted his position on legal immigration while in office. Could that complicate any White House efforts? I mean, we know immigration was central to his platform during his, first election campaign, and certainly it's going to be central to his re-election campaign.
Yeah, it absolutely is going to be central to his re-election campaign. He brought it up in his State of the Union address. When he ran in 2016, not only was he talking about protecting the border, but he was also talking about making sure that legal workers, those who were brought in, foreign workers, would not compete for jobs with American workers. It was part of his Buy American, Hire American agenda. Well, that has changed a bit in the last few years. In the last since 2018, we've heard a shift in President Trump's rhetoric and talking about needing to bring in more workers, but legally bringing in those workers. And I think that speaks to the successful efforts by the American business community who have been, arguing to President Trump and lobbying President Trump, saying, look, your economy, the economy that you helped improve, needs worker, and the only thing stalling the economy right now is not enough workers. That's kind of been the pitch to President Trump, and we've heard it successful. In recent interviews, President Trump has basically said that exact line, saying he wants to fuel the economy and that tech companies, manufacturing plants, they need workers.
All right, well, Franco Ordoñez, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.